Welcome to the Red Bull Theater Podcast, where guests discuss all things classical theater with your host, Nathan Winkelstein.
Welcome to the Red Bull Theater Podcast. I am your host, Nathan Winkelstein, and I am thrilled to welcome my guest today. He is one of our most accomplished stage actors who has appeared in countless Shakespeare plays on Broadway, off Broadway, and regionally, playing roles such as Cassio, Caliban, Cromwell, Casca, even a few that don't begin with the letter C. It is the charismatically commanding TEAGLE F. Bougere.
Hey, Nathan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you. It's wonderful. I'm getting into season 3 of these podcasts, and I'm so thrilled to continue to have such wonderful guests, and that they haven't all been scared off by whatever we're doing on here. So today we are going to be discussing Camillo in The Winter's Tale, a role you will be playing this year at Shakespeare in the Park, directed by guest of the pod, Daniel Sullivan. And this is your 10th park production, is that right?
It will be my 10th time in the park, and it will be my 4th show with Danny.
Wow.
Danny and I first did a wonderful Robbie Bates play called A Fair Country at Lincoln Center back in 96, I believe. And since then, we did the Cymbeline in the Park, and we also did Coriolanus.
That's
So
right.
this is our 4th together.
And I have, in fact, seen both of the Shakespeares. I've seen the Cymbeline and I saw the Coriolanus. They were both magnificent. They were two of my absolute favorite shows in the park. I loved the acting and the concepts behind both of those. The Coriolanus was especially fun for us at Red Bull because Daniel has been open about the fact that his inspiration to do that came after watching our production of it approximately a year earlier. He wanted to do it right after that, but that he really enjoyed that. So it was really great seeing that incredible cast in the park doing that show. And
that was my second time doing that show. I did a version of it with Kyron Coonrod at Theater for a New Audience, where I played Ophidius. And doing this play, Winter's Tale, got me to thinking there are several other plays now that I've done more than once. This will be my second time doing Winter's Tale. I did it at CSC with David Strathairn as Leontes, did Coriolanus twice, have done Othello twice. So have done the Scottish play twice, including once in Italy. So there are, I think, 5 of them now that I've done a couple times. Always different characters. So I've not had a chance to say the same character a second time. And some of that won't happen because I'm older now. But it's nice visiting the same play again.
Am I making it wrong? Is my memory incorrect that you've also done Hamlet twice?
No, I've only done Hamlet once. I did Laertes with John Douglas out in San Francisco.
Got it. Okay. Yes. For some reason, I thought I had a second one in there, but it's interesting. There's a couple of those plays that you wouldn't have thought would be the first ones you would do twice.
Right.
Including Coriolanus and Winter's Tale, which are both great plays, but are not, you would think, oh yeah, well, I somehow did Midsummer 72 times between the ages of 18 and 21. And yet, have you ever been in Midsummer?
I have not been in Midsummer, but Winter's Tale is, when people ask me my favorite Shakespeare plays, the two that usually come into mind first are The Tempest and The Winter's Tale, which for whatever reason are both considered romances.
Yeah, well, normally we would start right with the speech, but let's talk about that. I really like that comment. Why is The Winter's Tale one of your favorite plays?
I believe it has, it frustrates me, it makes me angry at the same time. It brings tears to my eyes, the end of the play, because Leontes gets a second chance. And there's a part of me, this happened when I was rereading the play about 2 or 3 weeks ago, gets to the end and I teared up. And yet by the same token, I said, that doesn't happen in real life. And the connection I was making had to do with things that I've done in my life. And if I had to do them again, probably wouldn't do in the same way. And you don't get a second chance. But in this play, you do. And it's a beautiful thing. But I did have, and I was surprised because I don't remember thinking anything or feeling anything like that when I first did the play in the 90s. Oh, no, you know what? I did it in maybe 2002 or three. But I did have this tug of this is gorgeous, this is beautiful, but this doesn't happen.
Well, that's really interesting. It's also, of course, an interesting connection with The Tempest in some ways, because The Tempest ends with him asking for forgiveness to some
Yes.
degree,
Yeah.
and is I'm perhaps in the minority here, but I'm someone who kind of believes that Prospero is in fact the antagonist of The Tempest, and that he is the only sort of villain of Shakespeare who gets redemption,
Mm.
who learns that he has become cruel, he has become overpowering, and he has lost his humanity in seeking vengeance, and he finds it again.
Right. And
And
he's that's in the end, release my charms.
right.
End of the play. He's, yeah.
Yeah, he needs to get rid of his power, he needs to re-find his humanity at some cost.
Right.
And that there's something, and I do think Leontes is, I hadn't connected the two plays, but you loving them both makes sense to me in that connection. Yes.
Being more specific about the Winter's Tale, and I wasn't going to say this because it's so personal, but I will. What I was connecting with Leontes, he's connecting it with this romance of this woman he loved. With the connection I was making was with my parents, and who I love dearly. Both are deceased. And if there were any possibility of them coming back to life, I would just be so happy. And I never had that thought. My mother was still alive when I did Winter's Tale the first time. But that's the connection that I was making when I was in Prospect Park reading the play a few weeks ago. How amazing that would be, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the you're right. The true offer of rebirth and redemption
Right.
is not, and it is an interesting play in that it's always read to me as something of a fairy tale in a
Mm-hmm.
way that many of his other plays don't. And I mean that as a Disney boy through and through. I mean that as a great compliment, that there's a way of digging into humanity deeply and what humanity wishes for deeply by allowing magic.
I
By
agree. I think that's
and
very
you're
well put. It is very much like a fairy tale, particularly that Act Five.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it's funny that funny is the wrong word, but that you tear up with The Winter's Tale, because it is also the play that most consistently I have trouble getting through. It's a different scene for me, which may speak to
Really?
my age, but the scene for me is the scene right after Leontes realizes what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And when he sort of, however you want to think about whatever's happening to Leontes, when he kind of comes back to himself,
Mm-hmm.
but it's too late,
Mm-hmm.
and he just gets hit with the death of his child, the death of his wife, and he knows it's his fault, and he knows there's no one else he can blame other than himself, and this is not due to my father. My father's a lovely man. He did a wonderful job of raising me. But for whatever reason, I'm extremely sensitive to characters where there is a father who tries and utterly fails.
Mm.
And as a new father myself, I feel it
Right.
particularly viscerally. So I'm excited to see this Winter's Tale, because that moment, it's like the hardest moment in the entire canon for me to read through on the page. It's just
Mm.
so painful.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's a beautiful play, and I'm glad that we're going to get to talk about it a little bit more today. I've done one podcast on Leontes, but I do think that it's a play that people don't know as well as they know a Macbeth or a Midsummer Night's Dream or a Romeo
Right.
and Juliet, and yet it has so many elements that are both great Shakespeare in terms of the death of exploration of humanity and so much entertainment.
Yes.
So I'm excited to do it. So on that note, let's hear. So Camillo is perhaps, could you give the audience a little bit of a description, because I'm also curious how you would describe him. of what this character is and who he is?
Leontes' right-hand man, he's extremely loyal to Leontes and would do just about anything for him except murder. And it's a struggle for him. He loves this man. As when he gets to Bohemia, several references are made to how much he misses Cecilia, and not just Cecilia, he misses Leontes. The piece we're going to look at here, I chose it because it's so wonderful. He has agreed to kill Polixenes, or at least he's told that to Leontes, but he cannot do it. He cannot do it. He deserts his home country because he doesn't want to do that.
And for the audience who doesn't know the plot of Winter's Tale, luckily this is Act 1, Scene 2, so it happens pretty quickly.
Right.
Leontes is a king. He is married to Hermione. His best friend is Polixenes, who is a king of a neighboring kingdom. And through reasons or lack of reasons, that is a completely different podcast, Leontes becomes convinced that Polixenes and Hermione are having an affair and that the baby that Hermione is pregnant with is Polixenes. And so he decides, as the first of many maneuvers, he decides to ask to, in fact, insist that Camillo murder Polixenes. And so...
And the last thing that Camillo says to him is, "I'll do't, my lord." That's the last thing Leontes leaves. And then Camillo is left somewhere in the middle of Central Park. Oh, miserable lady. But for me, what case stand I in? I must be the poisoner of good Polixenes, and my ground to do it is the obedience to a master, one who in rebellion with himself will have all that are his so too. To do this deed, promotion follows. If I could find example of thousands that had struck anointed kings and flourished after, I'd not do't. But since nor brass, nor stone, nor parchment bears not one, let villainy itself forswear it. I must forsake the court. To do't or no is certain to me a breakneck. Happy star, reign now. Here comes Bohemia.
Thank you, TEAGLE. Boy, that inspired so many questions right away. Where do I want to start? So I'm fascinated by him because he, as you say, you started in how you described him as intensely loyal to Leontes.
Yes.
And and yet the largest chunk of speech that he has is him not doing what Leontes has asked him to do.
Right.
Or told him to do. And yet there is this wonderful line that you have here, the fourth and fifth line, to do it is obedience to a master, one who in rebellion with himself will have all that are his so too. And so I wonder, as someone who's looking at his loyalty, do you think it is that Camillo truly feels that actually to do what Leontes is asking in this moment is betraying him? Like, where do you think Camillo is falling in his relationship with Leontes right in this moment?
I'm just starting to work on this, but I believe strongly. I don't think that Hermione is guilty. So I would be first murdering someone who is a good man and is being accused of something he hasn't done. And both of those things outweigh my loyalty in this situation. So I have a choice. In effect, blind loyalty, or what my heart and my head are both saying is the truth. And I reject the blind loyalty and go with my heart and my head. And as he says at the end of the speech, either way, I'm fucked. To do it or no, I have
Right.
to leave.
Well, I love what you're saying about the blind loyalty, because one of the things that I think is there are examples of this throughout the canon of people going against the orders of their sovereigns.
Yeah,
And yet, normally, they're going against the orders of sovereigns who they don't like, right? Who they
right,
aren't
right,
intensely loyal to.
right.
And so I do find Camillo somewhat unique in his conundrum of truly loving Leontes. And I do think it's something that, for me, makes the play so fascinating,
Right.
is the scene right before this, which obviously we didn't do because I would not make a good Leontes, is the scene right before this. You respect and love Leontes enough, and Leontes respects and loves you enough that he lets you push back on him
Absolutely.
really hard.
Absolutely. When he first tells me when he first tells me what he thinks she's done, Camillo, let me see if I can find it here for you quickly. Here it is right here. I would not be a stander by to hear my sovereign mistress clouded so without my present vengeance taken. Shrew my heart. You never spoke what did become you less than this, which to reiterate were sin as deep as that, though true. He's talking to his boss. Here's
Right.
another thing that you make me think when you're talking about his allegiance to Leontes and how strong it is. He has a super strong allegiance to Hermione as well. In the first half of this play, and I have encountered them, every reference is gracious queen, sovereign queen. He has at one point when he agrees to do the killing, he says, I will do it, but I cannot believe this crack in my dread mistress. He loves her too. And that leads him to not believe this is true, that this is happening.
I think that that's great, and I think that the fact that you love Hermione too, because it also makes me think. Of course, Hermione loves Leontes deeply as well,
Yes.
and is not willing, doesn't do what she needs to do to save herself until after so many attempts to reach him, to reason
Mm-hmm.
him. It's not until the for your love I do, for thy love I do give it lost, for I do feel it gone. It
Mm.
isn't until he has completely proved that he's a different person that she gives up on him.
Yeah.
And I do think it's part of the element of the top of this that differentiates this play from everything else is Camillo, Paulina, everybody tries to reason with Leontes, which
Yes.
makes me think that Leontes is traditionally someone who not only is reasonable,
Yes.
but is also someone who has surrounded himself by people who will reason with him.
And going along with that, when Camillo agrees to kill Polixenes, he says to Leontes, provided if after I do this, you will take back your queen.
Right.
And he goes on to say, you must do this. You must do it for your son's sake. You must take back your queen as part of the deal. And again, that is about his love for her and his love for him.
Yeah. And then I was hearing it. I didn't hear it the first time I was reading through the speech because it's different when you read versus when you hear. But when you were reading through it, I heard the line. It's interesting to me the logic path that you take of to do this deed, promotion follows. And then if I could find example of thousands that had struck anointed kings and flourished after, I'd not do it. Which is such a fascinating line to me because the rest of the speech is kind of about what is better or worse for me. I'm dead either way. I'm whatever. But right in the middle is this statement of conscience. This statement of even if I did believe that this would do well for me, I myself cannot do it because of my conscience anchor.
Right.
Which I find a really fascinating like pillar of the speech, and hearing how you said it right then, that and that he is the man that Leontes hired him to be, right? Like he
Absolutely.
is
And
the,
he's Leontes doesn't even realize how good he is
right.
until the end. You'll realize at the end. And the let villainy itself forswear is, I will not do that. Let the devil do it, but I am not going to touch this anointed king.
Right.
I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But I got to
And
get out of
that,
town.
yes, and therefore, and then the rest of it is just following the logic from there of what then is necessary for you to do.
Right.
Which is something that I absolutely love about how Shakespeare tends to handle these speeches, is that it's this wonderful sort of thesis statement, argument, solution.
Mm-hmm.
These are these logical characters, and whether it is Hamlet in Hamlet or Camillo in Winter's Tale, they tend to follow this path of deeply exploring the issue. And in this case, his exploration is simple. It's that
Yeah.
this is immoral, I won't do it.
Right. And then when in the next scene with Polixenes, he has this wonderful speech letting Polixenes know what we're going to do. And this is what
Right.
we're going to do. You're going to take me along. I'm going to become part of your retinue. We're going to go to Bohemia. This is what it's going to do. Then he does it again later with Florizel and his girlfriend.
Right.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. Da, 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 da. And he has ulterior motives because he wants to get back to Sicilia. But it's also, he's looking out for these people too.
Yeah, well, and
way.
I am curious about it. I admit that the pastoral part of this play holds somewhat less interest to me. It's lovely.
I played
and fun.
in the pastoral part many years ago when I did it. I did Autolycus.
Oh, well, he's a blast. I mean, I'll always take the clowns.
I came through the pastoral a little bit. Yeah. But no, you're right. He's crazy.
But it is interesting to me that there is this, it's not nearly as extreme, but 16 years later, you suddenly find yourself once again an advisor of a trusted king who's acting somewhat tyrannically towards people who probably don't deserve it. And once again, you step up and puppet master's too strong a term, but you step up and adjust circumstances.
Yes.
In order to do what you feel is right.
It's great. It's in order to do what I feel is right. And by the same token, what is this beautiful motivation under it is, I want to get back home.
Yes.
By then, I have the line about it's been 15 years since I've seen my country. And though I've been here a long time and I'm comfortable here, I want my bones buried there. And in that same speech, I think it's I forget what scene and act it's in, but in that same speech, Leontes has asked me to come home. Right. There is the line, besides I forget the exact line, but my poor master has requested that I return, even more reason for me to want to go. So yes, everything you're saying, plus he has this desire, this longing to go home. I've been in New York now longer than in California where I grew up, but there's often a feeling for me wanting to go back to California. That state's kind of crazy now, and I still dig New York, but I just, for so many years, I've always thought about California as home.
Well, I feel the same way even about like Buffalo, New York. About like I could keep doing what I'm doing, or I could run back to Buffalo and try to do something for my hometown, and things like that. I get that. Home is always, yes, home is where the heart is, but so often the heart is where the home is. And but it's an interesting point that you're making. I guess I hadn't really thought about how he manages to parallel. He's not completely a bleeding heart. So you're right that in general, he does the right thing, but he does make sure that it's going to at least be okay for him.
Absolutely.
Which is even in this speech, he says, if I kill her, I'm screwed. If I don't kill her, I'm screwed.
Right.
I gotta run.
Right.
So he is somewhat acting out of self-interest, even in this moment,
Absolutely.
Given that he's not willing to be completely immoral.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that makes him a deeply, what's the word? A deeply relatable human.
Complex. is the word,
Yes.
I think. Yeah, it makes him absolutely.
Yeah, he's not willing to just go out and be a martyr, but
Absolutely.
he's also not willing to be a bad person, which
Right.
I also think is what a lot of us would like to be.
Mhm.
And so he sits in a very interesting space for us in that way. Because I definitely, and frankly, I would say maybe this is countering the same argument, is do you think Camillo feels like there's any risk in returning? Like obviously Leontes has asked for him, but I don't know, that could be a trick. That could be whatever. When you left 16 years ago, you refused to do something super important and you haven't heard from the guy since.
I hadn't thought that, no, but
Okay. And that's what's fun about this is it's fun to just wonder because I was only hearing it with you saying of like, well, you left under pretty bad
right,
under
right.
pretty bad
But
circumstances.
since then, he has reached out to me.
Right.
And also what is pulling too now is Polixenes he said, you can't go. He says,
Right.
I have to have you. You have to help me with my son. You can't, so there's this tug of war going on. It's
Yeah.
a really complex character. I just started looking at it, but I'm really enjoying it and really looking forward to diving into it more.
Yeah, you feel like you're the counterpoint to Paulina.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like Paulina needs to bring one half together for the end to
Right.
work, and you
Right.
need to bring the other half together, and you both stand up to Leontes in different
Right.
ways.
Spoiler alert, we're going to be a couple.
Oh, at the end or at the beginning?
The end.
Well, yes, because that's at least hinted at in the text, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and because I was going to actually bring up that this is in direct contrast to Paulina's actual husband, Antigonus, who's eaten by a bear.
Right.
And
Exit pursued by bear.
yeah, and he is a good man, but a weak man. He doesn't make the decision that you make. He doesn't make the decision that Paulina makes. He does decide to do something cruel for the king, and in sort of classic fairy tale way, he pays for it.
Yeah.
Which I find really interesting in that there are these, it's like he's drawn these really hard moral lines and then found the people who are still morally complex, even if they choose a side of the line, which is, very Shakespearean. I mean, there's a reason we keep doing this guy's plays. But
Have you ever have you ever directed anything in it? Winter Sail, the play,
No,
scenes from it? Oh,
no, I haven't. I have, well, that's not, I have coached through the entire play with two different actors playing Hermione.
okay.
Which is a fascinating examination.
Mm-hmm.
And is also probably part of the reason why I know that plot a little bit better than I know the pastoral plot.
Right.
But no, it's just always been this piece that has intrigued me. A lot of the trickier Shakespeare plays, I'm like, at some point I'll find why I'm curious about that play. But whereas Winter's Tale I've been curious about for a long time.
Yeah.
And I love, I mean, I'm so excited to see what you all do with it because I think Daniel is so smart and on top of it in terms of he doesn't choose a play unless he's got something to say about it. Can I switch? So something else I clocked, I don't know. So you trained at NYU in the 80s?
No, yes, late. I got out in '88.
Okay. So you trained at NYU. So you truly graduated from NYU and stepped right into King John in the park.
Yes, but I actually first went up to Ithaca, New York. The first professional play I ever did was a play called Master Harold and the Boys with David S. Bjornson. And I did that and came back for the second show in the park, which was King John, directed
Was that
by.
the Hangar Theater? Is
Yes,
that the theater in
the
Ithaca?
Hangar Theater. Yes, indeed. Well done. Up in Canandaigua area.
Yeah, the Finger
Near
Lakes. It's
Cornell,
pretty near.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty near Cornell.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's a great theater. I love that theater.
Yeah, and then came back and did King John in the park with Stuart Vaughn was the director of that show.
Got it. Great.
And
That's a whole other podcast. Actually, I just did one with Evan Yanulis on King John,
Yeah.
which was great. So So you trained and I know they do it now. I assume they were also in the 80s. They did train their grad students in Shakespeare and classical theater.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I just clocked as you were reading right then was that you and counter me if this is incorrect, but it seemed like you follow, at least at first blush, follow the punctuation more than you follow the end line when you're just sort of working your way through a text. Is that, it just made me wonder if you have any TEAGLE methodologies when you deal with Shakespeare's text, any things that you personally do with each text that you look at. I'm not asking you to say this is the right or wrong way.
Right.
I'm just asking you to say, how do you kind of work your way in?
I have always approached, and this is going to sound simple, but it's true, to make to make the character sound like a human being and like a person. What I have found happens a lot in Shakespeare. In the beginning, I hear it and it doesn't sound like a person speaking. So it has always been my goal first to have a person speaking, as obvious as that sounds, but it doesn't happen a lot of the times. Secondly, a person who's speaking and you must. Michael Kahn, when I was at NYU, we had Ron Van Loo for a year and a half and Michael Kahn for the second year and a half. And I'll never forget one of my things Michael Kahn said is in Shakespeare, it's really important to understand what you're saying, not kind of what you're saying, but what you're saying exactly. And it sounds basic, but it makes a difference. So my thing is make it sound like a person, know what that person is saying and what that person wants and what's in his way. And that's all I can say. And in terms of the punctuation, sometimes it helps me, sometimes it doesn't necessarily. So I do not hold fast to either. I hold fast to what I feel I'm getting the sense through, and it's a person getting the sense through.
This is great. Let me dig a little bit more. First of all, I'm always happy to talk about Michael Kahn. He was also my first shows at Shakespeare Theater Company. I acted under him. I directed under him. Jesse directed under him. So Michael, in many ways, is responsible for better or worse
Michael,
for the artistic career.
I've always had a good time with Michael, and he directed me down there. We did Merchant of Venice together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he directed Hal Holbrook played. I did Gabo. And we had a wonderful time. And I really enjoyed his classes at school. So I was really, really fortunate to get it. And I believe I was his last class at NYU before he wasn't there any longer after. And this was in 87 or 88.
Got it.
But anyway, you were saying.
No, I was saying what I love, because I completely agree with you, is I like thinking about it as kind of the why, how, what. Is that one should start with the why. And the why is to talk like a human, right? Like to be a dynamic and interesting human, but a human. Like there,
and you can get to dynamic. I think a lot of people try to start at dynamic, and it doesn't sound like a person. But start as TEAGLE to Nathan at reading this. That's how I always try and start. And you don't need to anything more than that, and it will grow. But that's where I start. But
yeah, no, I really like that. It's actually almost an additional level of like, let's really boil it down to it is true and it is honest, and that is where we start. And then that said, whereas I think a lot of people who I think you were maybe obliquely referring to, what can sometimes happen is with any playwright or any, I guess, technique or thing that has existed for as long as Shakespeare has, is what are supposed to be tools to find truth become stand-ins for the truth themselves.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you just follow suddenly these tools, the T goes away and an R lands there. Right. Suddenly, if you follow these rules, you're doing Shakespeare right.
Right.
And because we always wanted to have a right and wrong, because that's easier than true and false. And so it's really nice to hear that, and not surprising given all of the work of yours that I've seen, the career that you've had, that obviously you start with honesty. I guess what I'm curious about is, once you have found that truth, once you have found the TEAGLE to Nathan truth, what are the tools in your toolbox that are next to then bring that to dynamic truth?
Well, I'm a big collaborator. I will always come in with thoughts and ideas, and start at that, what I call very human place. And in collaboration with not only other actors, but with your better directors, things come up and discoveries are made that contribute to that place you're talking about, to that growth and to the energy increasing depending on what it is. So I think a lot of that appears once you're in the room and finding things and in collaboration with folks. And in terms of what you're saying about the text in one way or another, I think you can combine them. I think both can work. But to me, what is most important is the honesty of the character.
That makes perfect sense. And that is I stand as a director and practitioner on honesty is paramount. And there are many verse things that you can do that are tools that can help you potentially find said honesty. And if they work,
Right.
They work. And if they don't work, you throw them away.
Right. And that's a case what you're saying, where I'm saying both can work.
Right.
So you can look at the text, take it apart and go, this needs to be here, this could be here, and you can infuse that with your heart and it soars. It's fine. But I'm a firm believer and I can make it soar without doing that. It's so interesting. I was even struck by you saying, as I was reading, what I was following, because I wasn't even paying attention. What was I following? You said I was following the punctuation, which, I may have. I don't. Yeah, I wasn't very conscious of it. What I was conscious of trying to do was putting myself in the position that Camillo is in right now. What the fuck do I do? I don't know. Wait a minute. I know I love him, but I am not going to do that. Here's why I would paraphrase it like this. I do that too a lot. I know I love him. I'm not going to do it. I don't care how many fucking examples you can't find. You give me a million examples. I am not going to do that. I am sorry. I love you. And I appreciate all you've done for me, but I can't do that. So where does that put me? Well, I'll have to leave town, because he will have me killed. He will believe that I am on Hermione's side. He will believe that I've known this was going on. He would think that I knew this was going on all this time and I'm part of it, and it'll be the end of me. So I just have to leave. And I love this country. I love it. I don't want to leave, but I have to. And I am not going to kill Polixenes. He is a good man. And here he comes. All right. Heavenly star, shine for me. Something like that would be what I'm going to put that into the text.
Well, I mean, look, that's actually I'm slightly skeptical of the paraphrasing, which I'll explain in a second. That's the best paraphrasing I've ever seen done impromptu like that. Truly. That's not blowing smoke. That was incredible.
Why are you against the paraphrasing?
So it actually goes
to
back
for you, not obviously on stage.
No, of course. So I'm not sure that I would, because I believe that tools are tools. I wouldn't ever say that I'm against paraphrasing. It's not a tool that I have found particularly effective, mainly because I think it can be misused. I think that and it goes back to actually what Michael Kahn has said about know exactly what you're saying is, well, by definition, exactly what you're saying is a little different from the paraphrase of what you're saying.
This is true.
So there's, like, for you, very clearly, you know exactly what you're saying, and the paraphrasing is another really important tool for you to bring it to yourself and for you to find the truth of it. I find a lot of people end up, like, there's a lot of people that I run into, and this is mainly coaches. I actually don't want to even speak about actors right now, where paraphrasing is the very first thing that they tell people to do. And then they don't follow that up by going, you have to put these and mean it into these exact words.
Of course.
Because then what can sometimes end up happening is it almost feels like they're dubbing themselves. Like they're saying these words, but they mean their paraphrase. And that but is my problem.
I see. Yeah.
As opposed to using the paraphrase to help yourself understand why you need what you are saying at a certain level and why you need to say it, and then
Yes.
infusing that into the exact language that Shakespeare used because
Because
he
the
used pretty good
language
language.
is brilliant.
Exactly.
So absolutely, the language. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The
Yeah.
language gives you. When I'm working on these plays, this happened most memorably for me when I was playing Macbeth in Italy, but it happens a lot. I literally, Nathan, I feel larger as a human being because that language fills me and it gives me size. And I remember Mark Wing Davey, he co-directed Hamlet. I mean, a Macbeth that I did in Shakespeare at La Pietra, NYU's Villa, with Jim Calder. And I remember walking down the streets in Florence and feeling 10 feet tall, because I had all of that language in me in that old city. And the reason I
Mhm.
think it happened in Florence is because, it's older than New York, where I've done so many of the plays here. And so what you're saying, yes, knowing and the only reason you do it is make a couple of reasons. One is to make sure you know exactly what you're saying. You have to use those words because they're brilliant and they are just filled. They have so much size
Right.
and they're fabulous. It's a high.
Yes,
It's like you're high.
I mean, I
Yeah.
agree, and exactly, and that's why, like, when someone like you, or when there's an actor who has a whole lot of craft and also uses paraphrasing as like one of their primary tools, I love that. It's I get anxious in the exact same way that I get anxious with the people who I think we both find troublesome, who go, well, the way to do it is to go to be or not to be.
Right,
That
right,
is the
right,
question. Is like, whoa, whoa,
right,
whoa,
right,
wait, wait,
right,
pause.
right.
Is there? It's almost on the other side of the technique
Yeah,
pillar,
yeah,
and both of them need to be working towards the center. And as
absolutely.
long as they're doing that, I love them both.
What was fun about
Um,
what I just did is, I've been looking at this play for the last couple of weeks. I've never done it until just now with you.
it was great.
I've been looking at it and, what does this mean? Looking up words and so, but just now. So it was really off the cuff, and
Well,
that's more or less what he's saying. I got to get out of here.
yeah,
But
and look,
that pull though is he loves it here and he loves his job. But these are
and
extenuating circumstances.
I love that the what you're talking about is, and like, look, for the audience who hasn't seen a lot of Winter's Tale, Camillo is not a leading character. He's a supporting character. And Camillo is just talking about how great Shakespeare is. Camillo has such insane complexity to him.
Yeah.
And he follows another one of sort of my rules of great writing of there is macro conflict, there's plot-wide conflict for him in this moment. There is interpersonal conflict for him in this moment, and there is internal conflict for him in this moment. And if all three of those are happening, it's impossible for it not to be interesting.
Yeah.
And it was great watching you do that. And also just a reminder of that it's the right choice for me to have switched to directing. It was amazing watching you do that. It was truly brilliant.
Thank you.
And it was brilliant because you were really doing it. You were really exploring what that character is in that moment and what they're dealing with. And it's a fascinating exercise to see done so effectively. I love what you said about the additional size and scope that Shakespeare's language gives you. To share a personal anecdote really quickly, I have a very young daughter, and at a very young age, as probably most people who are listening know, kids, their reactions are limited. What they can respond to are limited, right? And it has been fascinating to me to go, okay, I can put her to sleep by singing. And other than that, she really doesn't care unless I'm speaking Shakespeare.
Oh.
And Shakespeare, she immediately focuses. It's the only thing she focuses on. And I don't think it's because I'm brilliant at Shakespeare. I think she responds to the muscularity and power of the language.
Yeah.
And the dynamic that it requires of a voice, and it's not like I'm walking around house projecting. I'm just saying it to her. But the requirements to say the words truthfully seem to do something, whether visually or auditorially, that makes even a 4-week-old perk up
Yeah,
and
that's great.
focus. And it was really astonishing the first time it happened.
Do you read from different things or sonnets or plays, or what are you reading?
So right now it's all memorized monologues
Oh, okay.
from various countries. The favorite is All the World's a Stage right now. And but the If It Were Done When 'Tis Done is in the rotation. Fair Mistress from Comedy of Errors, One Heat, Another Heat Expels from Two Gents.
You
There
know,
yes.
from Macbeth, the line when I did it in the park, I did Banquo, but in Italy, I did him. And the line that has haunted me the most is the line, and I don't remember exactly, but it's the line about his punishment being the inability to sleep. Because that would just be torture,
Yes.
and I think it's such a wonderful line, and I occasionally have trouble sleeping, and that line comes floating through my head about that is part of his punishment
Yeah,
for
Macbeth.
kill Duncan.
Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Yeah,
And then sleep, the nature's balm,
yeah,
all of that. Yeah,
yeah.
that
That
knits up the
section,
raveled sleeve of care.
that section right there, I just think that's just brilliant, and it's terrifying. I find
Yes,
it
and
terrifying.
I do think it's true for all of Shakespeare, but the Scottish play is definitely one of those ones where I kind of go, sometimes it's helpful to remember that you can take what they're saying literally. Yet he doesn't sleep after that moment. And it explains a lot about how he behaves through the
It
rest of the
does.
play,
It does.
is that he isn't sleeping.
Yeah.
And and he even starts hallucinating, and he starts just having trouble reasoning in the same way that he used to reason. I mean, that play, that is a play that is very much on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I have lots of thoughts about that. But that's interesting. I really like because you are it makes sense sometimes when what you're sort of known for as an actor and your craft are married, is that you're known for, I would say, a dynamic stillness, you don't push, but you're always activated. And it seems, and that's both how you speak and just how you are on stage. And it's interesting to hear you talk about how, well, the first thing you need to do is just be honest, because if you just exist.
Be a person. I've spoken to kids about it, and I've said the same thing. The other thing I've said to high school groups over the years is you've probably encountered this too, but I've had many tell me they don't like Shakespeare. And I've heard, I hate Shakespeare. And I always say, no, you hate and you don't like bad Shakespeare. And I said, neither do I. It's torture. I said,
Yes.
but when it's done well, and another thing I have a lot of kids say, well, no, I just can't follow it. I said, well, that's on us, because our job is to tell this story in a clear way. But the thing about I hate Shakespeare, I don't like Shakespeare, I always respond with, you don't like bad Shakespeare.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I have run into it a lot. And I think the other element, I think there's two elements, and this is probably a whole nother conversation that we may not have time for. It's bad Shakespeare, and it's also gate-kept Shakespeare.
What kind?
Gate-kept Shakespeare. So
you mean with the traditional sort of, what do you mean?
Yeah, there's just a lot of gatekeeping that exists around how people talk about Shakespeare and who can do Shakespeare and what you need in order to do it. I mean, the place where there's obvious ones, but to talk about one example is some people that I teach Shakespeare to a lot. I used to work with a group that mostly had music theater students. And then they would bring me in as their one Shakespeare person. So it would be me coaching a whole bunch of music theater people in Shakespeare. And they were all universally terrified of it, just totally terrified of it. And I told them, I was like, music theater has all of the technical skills. You already have all the technical skills you need for Shakespeare. Anybody who's telling you don't is lying for you. to you. You understand, you have a huge dynamic range. You understand verse and you're not intimidated by speaking truth through verse and rhythm. You just need to do it with this language. And it's not, and as long as you do it, and as long as you don't worry about whether or not you're allowed to do it, because the answer is yes, people tend to relax and just do it and stop worrying about another perfect form of gatekeeping, stop worrying about it being poetry or fine art, and just be human beings on stage who want what they want. Shakespeare's about, every single scene in Shakespeare is about love, death, or honor, right? Love, death, or honor.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you that people don't like bad Shakespeare, and they don't like how Shakespeare is spoken about, what people tell them Shakespeare is.
Yeah.
Because he wrote it for the people.
Absolutely.
And that's what you've done 10 times in the park.
I did the Oedipus that was just on Broadway, and we rehearsed it in London. And I lived right off the Thames, right by the Globe.
Oh,
I was South Bank. That's where
yes.
I walk along the Thames right by where the Globe is now. And about a block away from me was where the original Globe was. And there's a marker there when it burnt down. And, so that was pretty thrilling to be there right off the Thames.
I'm so jealous. I went to grad school in England, but I went to grad school in Bristol.
I played the Bristol Old Vic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw many shows there.
I did. I was doing the James Baldwin, William F. Buckley debate for on and off for 5 years. It happened originally at Cambridge, where we played. But before we went to Cambridge, we played the Bristol Old Vic, which is the oldest continuously running English-speaking language theater in the world. And Nathan, it is also, and I've been in a lot of theaters, it is the most gorgeous theater I've ever been in. When I walked in there the first day, I stood in the back stalls, and it literally altered my breathing. It just so beautiful. And we played a few nights there, the Baldwin piece there, and then we went to Cambridge. But I've been there worked there 3 times in the last 4 years in London. I've had a ball.
I'm jealous. I mean, it was wonderful being in Bristol, but I only made it to London once. I saw Roy Kinnear and Adrian Lester in Othello at the National, and then I got deadly sick when I was supposed to go to the Globe the next day. So I have somehow never been to the Globe despite going to grad school in England.
Well, you still have time.
I do still have time. And it will definitely happen. That is a pilgrimage.
And your daughter will be quoting things from the plays because she's doing Shakespeare right now. So she'll.
Yes, that poor girl. I'm really setting her up to be super cool. Well, Teagle, this time has flown. I've had so much fun talking to you about this role and about your work. And thank you for coming on to the podcast. It's been really lovely.
You're so welcome.
You for sharing.
You're so welcome. It's been enjoyable.
So that is all we have, everybody, today. Our Rebels now are ended. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Red Bull Theater Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your support helps us to bring you more captivating conversations and insights into the world of classic theater. To stay updated on our latest activities, follow us on social media, get on our mailing list, and visit www.redbulltheater.com, where you'll find an abundance of podcasts, readings, classes, seminars, productions, and more. Your support makes all of this possible, so please consider making a tax-deductible donation on our website to help us continue bringing classical theater to contemporary audiences. Until next time, thanks, and ever thanks.